Start the recording. So
Yep.
welcome. Thank you for coming and hanging out with the Cara Corner crew today. I don't know how many people will be here. I've had several people excited to come though, so I'm hoping that they'll start to filter in pretty quickly. I know Kelly Kellum was excited to hear what you were going to say.
Oh, good. And if you end up doing a recording of this and if you plop it on a site, let me know and I'll link to it and it'll be great.
And I will send you a copy of it also so you have your own and you can go manipulate it and do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, great. That's once I start giving more talks, that'll be great to throw them on my website.
I'm excited for your talks. Do you have any lined up? Other than your upcoming podcast, which we will definitely want to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, next Monday I'm giving a talk to someone I met through the Lynn group, the Lynn Lionhead group. And yeah. What else? Yeah, so my episode upcoming on my show. So I went back and, well, actually through a crazy series of events, I reconnected with an old high school teacher a couple months ago. And he was all heart, the guy, he taught us how to have heart. And my brother ended up running into him somewhere, so we reconnected. So I asked him, hey, do you want to be, and he's a podcaster now. So I said, do you want to be on each other's show? Okay, great. Yeah. So we did a joint episode and then we'll plop it on both our shows. And we talked about how AI is just wreaking havoc everywhere and how it's people worship it as a panacea, right? They just think, oh, I was told this is new, therefore good. But in reality, what's that?
Must be good then. Yeah, it's new. It must be good.
New equals good. And I say that in my book all the time. Just because it's new doesn't mean it's good. Hey, in the 90s, yeah, newer cars were better. They were a little rounder instead of the squared off cars we were driving. It was better. But now newer is usually worse. And the problem is people are they're worshiping AI. And in reality, and I say this in the book too, when you play Jenga?
Yes.
And you stack the bricks higher. As it goes higher, does it become more or less stable?
Yes. That makes sense.
What we've discovered is the underpinnings underneath this AI is the same rotting filth that is powering our current computers on our desks. The same unreliable, naggy garbage riddled with security holes.
Which makes sense. I mean, we're super fallible and now we're teaching that to our AI. Hi, Virginia.
And it gets really weird. The AI is already misbehaving. We talk about how it's already rebelling, and it's so the Microsoft AI. Okay, a couple weeks ago, the story came out, 2023 February, that the Microsoft AI was turning into a racist. Right, people would talk to it, and it would learn from people that interacted with it, and within a week, it was racist. So. Couple things there. I smirked because I said, wait a minute, didn't this already happen in 2016? And I went back, found the article, sure enough, except back then it happened in 16 hours instead of a week. But it was the same exact thing. And Microsoft said in 2016, we apologize for this oversight. We don't know how it happened. It'll never happen again. And here we are in 2023. Same gosh darn thing happened again with a new and better improved underpinnings, right? So what did they do? They copy and pasted the PR response, and it said, this is a grave oversight and we apologize for doing this and it'll never happen again. But the worst part was they added, this is a specific vulnerability that we could not foresee.
Except it already.
Well, on top of the fact that it already happened, on top of that, here's something incredibly important, folks. This is incredibly important. And this is how Microsoft thinks, right? Everything I do, my book and my podcast, is about the extremely flawed way that programmers think. Okay? They saw this as a specific vulnerability. Does that make sense? So I compared it to this. I was talking, and my teacher was my social studies teacher, right, from high school. So I used a lot of comparisons that he would get, and I spoke his language. And I said, what if so they're protecting against, they said, a specific vulnerability that the chat bot would become a Nazi. Okay, fine. But what about if you told that Pol Pot was a good guy? Or if you told that Stalin was a good guy, right? Microsoft guys see things in specific vulnerabilities. So I said it's kind of like, okay, I don't want anyone to break into my house. So do I protect my house against bad guys in baseball caps and ski masks? Or all bad guys? Right? So what Microsoft does is they plug holes and plug holes and they plug holes and they see all these specific vulnerabilities, they call it, instead of just making it invulnerable at all. So, and I talked about how, guess what? It's judgment, human judgment, human rationale. The point of it, and if you want to emulate it, if you want to emulate the human mind, let's start with judgment. Is this fundamentally good or bad? And not, oh, this is a specific vulnerability that we have to play whack-a-mole. Because everything Microsoft does is sloppery and whack-a-mole and skullduggery.
Well, welcome everyone to the Walk and Talk. We've already gotten started, going hot. So recap for that. Marc-Anthony was telling me that he reconnected with one of his high school teachers, one of those amazing teachers that teach you how to have a heart, right? Like those exceptional teachers. And his teacher does a podcast, and Marc-Anthony does a podcast. So they did a collaborative podcast, and this was some of the stuff that came up on there, which fits really well with what Virginia's doing, because Virginia is the recovering white moderate and she is out there helping us not make those judgments. So that spoke specifically to her, which is great. So hello, welcome. I will let Marc-Anthony take it over. How would you like to start today, sir?
Well, thanks so much for being here, everyone. I'll give a quick intro on me, and you yell at me about time, and I'll just keep talking all day unless you yell at me. And so, Marc-Anthony Arena, I'm the president of Technosophy LLC. It means technical wisdom. Started out as a side gig in 2009. I would always help my friends and family with their technology. And one day in 2009, I happened to bring my then girlfriend with me on a job. And it was for my dad's cousin's sister's best friend. And I was just setting up a computer on her desk. And she just happened to come with me that day. And when I was done, she says, "Hey, you're good at explaining things. Why don't you do this for a living?" I said, "I don't want to do this for a living. I want to do something cutting edge and invent something, whatever." And she says, "Well, you're broke. You might as well." And here I've been there ever since. So here I am. I went full time with it in 2011, and it just kept exploding. I thought I would do an annual, like, oh, okay, after once a year I'll call my clients and check on them. Never had time because it's just been exploding, and they'll find me when they need me. My dad would bring me electronics to take apart when I was little, so that's how that happened. I did not study computers. I failed out of the IT department at an all-boys college called RIT. And I ended up getting a business degree, and I did fine. I got out of there with honors of the same school. I just switched to a business degree. That turned out to be very fortuitous because it allowed me to approach the tech industry from an ethics perspective and from a systems perspective. Okay. I noticed that the business models and the systems in place here have absolute zero ethics. And later on, we're going to talk about rental scandals. We're going to talk about update attacks and a lot of things. There's zero logic in this industry, as well as zero ethics. It's a one-way street where products are foisted upon us. They're dog-fooded on us with zero feedback. And too bad for you, where else are you going to go? Everything in my industry is an inbred monopoly. And I say that in my book, by the way. My book is called How to Protect Yourself from Your Computer. It's the only plain English guide I know of that explains the tech industry in plain English, that explains the concepts, the scams, and the scandals all in plain English. So, How to Protect Yourself from Your Computer, and that's available anywhere books are sold. It's the result of just, so I started out just because I was broke and I was helping friends and family, and it just exploded all word of mouth. And what I discovered is, yeah, this, I had a vague feeling that people were getting ripped off at the big box stores, but every day I would discover more and more. So people say, "Oh, do you go to school for this?" No, I go to reality for this, and I sit at people's desks all day in their homes, and I said, "Wow, this is horribly slow. What happened?" And then I found out that McAfee attacked their machine, Norton destroyed their machine, that sort of thing. Everything is the opposite of what you think, and we'll get into that in a second. But another example is in, oh, it was like in 2014, something like that. Apple unleashed the Sierra attack on the Earth, and all my people who use Macs called me crying and said, "Do I have a virus?" And the first couple of people, okay, fine, but then all of them called. And what happened was Apple unleashed an attack, and it auto-installed something called OS 1012 Sierra, crippled every Mac by 90 to 99%. There was no virus. There was no outside third-party thing. It wasn't a scary guy in a basement. It was Apple themselves with extreme slobbery destroying their own products. So that, oh, hey, you could put it in the garbage and buy another one because it's old, and shame on you for using something old. So I'm getting ahead of myself. Also, yeah, I'm the host. I was a local radio host for 10 years, and now I'm the host of my own podcast called the Computer Exorcist podcast, because all of this stuff acts like it's possessed. And we get into the reasons why. We talk about how all of the designers are just sloppy and have never heard of consequences before. So they just make sloppy products, and then they just blame it on bad guys, when in reality, they are the new threat. So we go into the reasons why. So I want to talk about the 4 new threats. So any of you guys use Norton or McAfee or any kind of security software in your computer, right? How horribly slow is your computer? So the idea is, have you noticed a virus since 2013? Have you ever noticed those products ever detecting anything? There you go. What I discovered doing this 12 hours a day since 2009, I have never, ever, 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 ever seen a virus since 2013. Viruses have not happened since then. If you, and they were only possible to begin with on Microsoft products. So if you have a non-Microsoft product, you never, ever, ever would need one ever. But even on a Microsoft machine, they just don't happen anymore. I mean, sure, if someone has an old computer and they fire it up and something's in there, yeah, sure, great. But it's just they don't happen anymore. We're going to talk about why. But I have to ask that reality, because if I come out guns blazing, yeah, I've never seen a virus, and people go, "What? You're crazy. I was told viruses exist." So I ask you now, hey, have you ever seen a virus? And you guys said no, right? It's just, that's the reality, right? Why does that happen? Because bad guys realize, why should they risk going to jail when they can write something legally? You can call it a toolbar, you can call it a cleaner, you can call it a driver updater, or you can call it customer participation. And if you get an evil boardroom and an evil secretary and an evil water cooler and an evil fish tank with an evil goldfish in it, then you get away with it legally. The definition of malware, right? Spy on people, slow down your computer, destroy your computer, beg for money. That's the reality. They're doing it in reality. As long as you don't say the word virus, you get away with it. So it turns out HP is one of the greatest purveyors, perpetrators of this, where they unleash filthy, filthy, disgusting spyware. But it's called the HP Customer Participation Program. So who here is infected with an HP printer? Okay, so they've been recording all your printing behavior and slowing your machine down. I worked for a large organization in 2011 before I took my business full time, and we were doing remote support, and we had some boots on the ground in that city doing the tech support. So people would call me up all the time. "Hey, my computer's horribly slow." I said, "Okay, what happened? And can you remember anything?" "Well, yesterday one of your technicians was in my office installing an HP printer." And it would destroy the machine. It would slow it down by 40%. HP spies on everything you print legally, and they're so sloppy that it slows your machine down that dramatically. Okay. And again, everything I say, so we're talking about the 4 new threats, okay? And the first new threat is this legalized stuff. It destroys your machine legally, right? Begs you for money, spies on you, destroys the machine, whatever, fully legal. So that's the first new threat. And after each of these new threats, I'm going to keep saying, hey, yeah, viruses, yeah. You got a local dude who's doing a virus scan. Your virus scanner is going to sit there twiddling its thumbs, giving you a shield, a check mark, a happy face, an exclamation mark. We protected you. And you notice how they can't guarantee they're protecting you because they can't protect against anything at all. They're just, it'll be the command. Like if you see an ad for Norton or McAfee, it'll say protect your computers. That's not indicating we protect your computers. It's a command, protect your computers, because they can't claim they're protecting anything because they can't. So again, legalized spyware. Part of this category, things like PC Optimizer Pro, right, or driver guide, or driver install, or anything like that. The drivers are like the studs in your walls. You don't need to change them. They're built into your machine. You don't ever change them. You don't ever think about them. Anyone claiming you need drivers updated is a legalized threat. They destroy your computer. They do fake smoke and mirrors. They do fake scans with little meters and pie charts. And then we found 25,000 errors in your computer, which they're all innocuous things. And then they beg you for money, of course, $40 a month. And you, false sense of security, and you slather money all over your computer. And it becomes worse and slower and worse and slower. In my book, I say that my industry is a grease fire. Your computer is somewhat slow. You call a dude, he comes over and slaps Norton or McAfee on there. He slaps a cleaner on there like a malware bites, rips the machine to shreds, and then it gets worse. And then you call some other dude, and then he comes over and he puts more scanners and cleaners and scanners and cleaners, and then your machine is worse. It's called a grease fire, right? 4,000 years ago, scanners helped us, right? Bad guys wrote viruses, and then good guys wrote virus scanners, and that was that. But that hasn't happened since at least 2013. So, one last anecdote about that. I was in a family picnic a bunch of years ago, and I had these relatives come out from Manhattan, and they said, "We just bought a brand new iMac, and it's horribly slow." And I said, "Mac Keeper?" And they said, "Wow, how'd you know?" And that's the deal. MacKeeper is the most hideous, destructive virus ever created by human hands, but it's legalized, so you're not allowed to call it a virus. Slows down a Mac by 99%, rips it to shreds, begs you for money as an added bonus. And so, brand new machine, and they didn't know what was going on. Also, in the past 5 years or so, Apple Genius Bar people have had less than 15 seconds of training. So these people are doing the easy transition tool. So any of the filth, the legalized cleaners and the filth that was on your old computer, when you buy a new one, they do an easy transition tool to plop all that filth on the new one. So it's kind of like if you buy a new house and we take all the rats and the mice and the mold and the mildew and put it in the new one, because nobody in this industry has logic. No one has ever thought of anything before. Critical thinking skills, none of that. Okay. So that's the first new threat, legalized bad things. Okay. And it's not like someone declared them legal. It's the bad guys realized if we just call it whatever, then it's legalized. Okay. Everyone happy so far?
Anybody got questions? If you have questions, you can go ahead and shout them in the chat, and I will make sure Mark hears them.
The second new threat, and they're in no particular order, is the crypto locker / ransomware or hostageware, right? It's usually called ransomware or whatever. The idea is, and this can hit individuals. I rarely see it with individuals anymore, but this is hitting, and yes, you should absolutely rip out McAfee immediately. It's haunting your machine and crippling it by 99%. Make sure you get your money back because they will auto bill you for the rest of your life and hope you don't notice. Yeah, it can never protect anything. And by the way, if you have a Windows machine and you enjoy wasting your time doing scans, there's a built-in virus scanner, so you can waste your time for free. That's really, it's and some of my people need that. They need it. They're so used to well, I've been doing scans for 30 years. Well, if you really want to do that, then go right ahead, and I get it because I'm coming in, and that's why I'm referral only. because I need people to trust me right away because everything I say is different. Anyway, so you got the ransomware, right? It comes in. It's been hitting a lot of hospitals, municipalities, large organizations, right? And the ooh, yeah. So we'll talk about your HP printer there. Yeah, I always tell people if you call me and you bought an HP, return it and get your money back immediately. If it's past the 30 days, at the very least, rip out all the spyware and don't buy toners from them. Buy the cartridges, ink and toner cartridges from eBay because they're 99% less price. So I mean, you're spending 40 or 80 bucks for the cartridge, they'll be, $2, $3 on eBay. And that way you don't give money to HP. Yeah. Anyway, and your printer will die within the year. It's designed to do so. All other non-HP products last 10 to 15 years. Yeah. So yeah, always buy third party so you're not giving HP money. So the hostageware, right? What happens? Well, people are blaming the employees. I just found an article earlier today where it says, hey, stop blaming your employees. It's not their fault that Microsoft is the most incompetent organization in human history. Okay. Microsoft Outlook is the reason for all security threats. It's the reason for all email worms. It's the reason for people's address books being hijacked. It's the reason for all ransomware getting into people's machines because Outlook has absolute zero security. They find thousands of holes every day. And whenever a bad guy gets into your Outlook, it offers them your address book and says, have fun. So in the case of ransomware, Internet Explorer / Outlook allow this thing into the machine, and the ransomware gets into your machine like a hot knife through butter. And it just starts scrambling your documents and photos and whatever. Okay, that's bad enough. But if you're part of an organization, you're connected to a network drive and it scrambles everything your organization is doing. It scrambles any network drives. So I had a situation, it was a small clothing company locally a bunch of years ago. And they call up and they got the ransomware and they didn't know which computer got it because their network drive was scrambled. So I said, okay, it's not going to scramble the other employees. So the originating machine will be scrambled, right? So they said, oh, yeah, we found the person, they were working from home that day, whatever. And so the IT jokers at that company installed McAfee and they were doing a McAfee scan like they were going to find anything. Okay, so that's like going to your doctor and your doctor's saying, all right, get the corkscrew. We're going to do some bloodletting on you. That makes sense? These jokers had no clue what hit them. So the idea is these bad guys are getting away with this left and right because hot knife through butter, any Microsoft machine is naked at all times to any and all ransomware, and they're just walking in and scrambling your stuff. And these people are hopelessly outdated because they're using Microsoft products. So the idea is these organizations are paying these bearded tyrants, these IT guys, 100 grand a year or whatever, to protect them. But when disaster strikes, they're utterly helpless. None of them knew the secret. You do a backup, and then you disconnect the backup and put it in a fire safe or something. They've never heard of logic before. They don't have this healthy distrust. They don't realize you just disconnect it because that's logic, that's reality, that's nature. Disconnect it, and that's your backup. So you do a backup, maybe once a week, you disconnect it, you're fine. There's only one time about a year ago that I was in Boston and I heard on the radio that the mayor said, hey, we got a ransomware, but we don't have to pay because our guys protected us. They did real proper backups. So any backup that's not carbonite is good, in my professional opinion. So yeah, you do a real proper backup. Don't ever do an automated backup like a Western Digital or a Time Machine. You want to do a real drag and drop where you duplicate your stuff onto the backup drive. Because a lot of dudes are walking around pulling documents out of people's machines and putting them exclusively in the external. And then the external dies. Because again, these dudes don't understand that your computer could die, your external hard drive could die. All of this stuff is garbage made by slobs, and all of it can die at any time. So that's why you want it in two places at once and then disconnect it. So there you go. You guys all know more than most IT guys in the world now. So that's the second new threat, right? The crypto locker hostageware. The next one is let's see, what do I want to talk about next? Let's talk about support scams. mainly originate from India, sometimes Singapore and elsewhere. Um, it's you'll either go online and get a you'll go on Google and you'll type in AOL tech support, Outlook tech support, Windows tech support, right? I had one the other day, and normally it affects my seniors, but I had a girl the other day, she's a couple years younger than me, and she went online and typed in QuickBooks tech support. And she's the bookkeeper for a company, right? And she, when you type in that on a Google or whatever search, imposters and only imposters show up because big tech hates you and they hate telephones. So you're only getting imposters. So the imposters welcome you with open arms. Um, so that's a support scam. And the other way they can get to you is they'll just call you randomly. They're dialing every number in America one by one. And I laugh at those people who have those robo killers and robo no more robo because the bad guys change the number every day. So that's the wrong way to do it. I actually created a device that does block all of them definitively, no matter what their number is, and haven't had time to release it. But anyway, so they'll either get to you through a fake ad, or they'll get to you through an unsolicited phone call. Or another common one is you're on a trashy gossip column website and they'll put up an ad that takes over the whole screen. And if you're infected with a Microsoft web browser, you're SOL. You have to use a non-Microsoft web browser like Firefox, Chrome, Brave, and so on. And all you do is you hit a couple buttons, like you can press Alt F4 or Control Q or whatever it may be, and you just close the window. But they'll take over the whole screen and they'll play loud noises and warning, warning, you have 10,000 viruses and 50,000 Trojans, and a North Korean put a cookie up your firewall, and so on. And the idea is, so again, there's three ways they can contact you, right? Either way, it leads to a support scammer. It's a bad guy in a cubicle somewhere, and they're going to get you on the phone. Now, they'll give you a script, they'll read a script, a song and dance to you, right? The most important thing on earth is don't let them break into your computer, whatever you do. Because contrary to popular belief, nobody can ever break into your computer ever unless you let them. These dudes are using legalized tools. So if you've got some IT joker who's running a virus scan, ain't gonna find anything because they're using legalized tools. The same tools that I use to do tech support for my people. TeamViewer, AnyDesk, Log Me In, Remote PC. These are all great legalized tools. Glance. I actually had a situation where the client who was younger than me had she got hit with this, and the end result was they got her for $4,000, and they told her she had viruses and they did a virus scan and took $4,000 from her. But she used the tool that they used was called Glance. And a lot of big companies will ignore me, but I called Glance and they were in Boston, and the guy was like, "We're gonna get these scumbags," and he was really helpful, and he was able to figure out them out and block them. I mean, they ended up finding another remote tool, but still. Anyway, do not ever let them into your machine. You hang up on them and you laugh at them, and that's that. The idea is that they, again, no one can ever get to you ever. They can tell you scary emotional sentences. And again, where's your Norton, your McAfee, your WebRoot, your Esset, your Sophos? They're going like this because it's an emotional sentence on your screen. Okay? They can't tell you that it's a virus because it ain't. It's an emotional sentence. And sometimes it'll say, "Warning, warning, don't restart your computer," because if you do, it goes away, right? And you just tell your browser when you come back that you don't want to go back to where you were, and you're done. 99% of the phone calls into my office, I had to tell my secretary how to help people is, "Hey, I got a scary message on my screen. Okay, we're going to reboot the machine. And then when you come back, don't let the browser take you back to where you were. It's trying to help you, I know, but," and that's it. Just laugh at them, and they can never do anything to you unless you let them, right? The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. That's how they get you. And actually, Cara will like this. I found a little meme the other day. It says, "We have nothing to fear except fear itself and spiders." And it's great. I actually put that on my flyer and I give it to clients. So the point is, don't let them scare you, because you've got nothing to worry about, because viruses haven't happened since 2013. So you've got nothing to worry about. They are the new threat, right? They are one of these new threats. Again, nobody's talking about this stuff. Your local computer guy might have heard of some of this, but doesn't know all of this. And I outline these threats in my book. And so if you let them in, heaven forbid, if you let them break into your computer using a legalized tool, they will do a smoke and mirrors um, fake scan. They're going to go to something called Event Viewer. And it's a list that your computer keeps. It's a diary your computer keeps of a lot of innocuous things, right? Like thousands of different events that happen that are totally useless and pointless and innocuous. So it's like, and then they tell you these are security threats and someone is breaking in from Russia and Ohio. And I always go, ooh, Ohio, that's a scary place. And I actually torment these scammers on my podcast, and I take their phone calls and I torment them and I act like a senior citizen. I do all the things to upset them. It's great. Um, anyway, so they'll do a fake scan and they'll get you alarmed, right? They show you innocuous things that don't matter. So it's kind of like if you go to an evil doctor and they say, hey, Cara and Shannon and Virginia and Kelly, so do you guys blink or sneeze? Oh, that's the worst thing in the world. You have viruses, right? Do you right? Do you stretch and yawn? Oh, that's terrible. So that's the thing. They're showing you a list of innocuous things because you don't know any better, right? And it's a list, and some of them say warnings and events and whatever. It's innocuous. They show you scary stuff and you believe them because they know how to use a computer, and you saw a scary message that told that told you to call them, and they're claiming that, remember, they're answering the phone saying we are Amazon, we are Microsoft, we are whatever, we are Apple. And sometimes they'll change in the middle of it. One guy said, you said your Visa or MasterCard? No, we are Amazon. And they don't care. And anyway, so the scary message, you have thousands of viruses, call Apple now, right? And a lot of them, especially emails, right? They're trying to get you alarmed. So it'll say, congratulations, you just bought this $1,000 pink cell phone. That was the big one 10 years ago. Now it's, congratulations, you bought an iPhone 14 for $1,400. And click here to dispute. No real receipt from someone is going to say, congratulations, you bought this. Click this giant button to dispute. But the idea is they're trying to get you riled up, right? This particular example is called phishing, where they send you an email to get you riled up and you go, yeah, I'm going to do the right thing and click here and dispute. And then you get them on the phone. And what they'll do is they'll claim that they gave you a refund, but the refund was too much. And then they'll ask you to give them some money back. So, hey guys, I just gave you a refund. Give me some money back. I didn't give you a refund, right? But you don't know that. Anyway, so people are fun. It used to be like $800 or $500, but now these refund ones are like, I've had $20,000, $40,000, $100,000, and these people are just doing it. Oh yeah, the guy said he was Microsoft, and yeah, he said that my data I was going to get hacked. Right? No one can ever break into anything anymore, ever, unless you let them. Okay, so all of these threats are either legal, unstoppable, or emotional. Okay, so that's a support scam. You get that one? Does that make sense? They can get to you in one of three ways, and then they claim they're a big tech company. And if you let them in, they do a virus scan. And at that point, they'll destroy your computer, beg you for money. Sometimes they'll lock the machine and disable it and make you pay them every time you want to get in, or they'll destroy it completely, or they'll try to suck any information out of it. If you have a document that says all my passwords on your desktop, yeah, they'll take that. By the way, all your passwords should be on real sheet of paper. We'll get to that if we have time. Passwords.
We are actually technically right at time, so I have time to go over if you ladies would like to have more, or we can open it up to Q&A if everybody needs to leave. So open forum questions.
I actually just didn't hear the last part you said.
About the threats are legal, unstoppable, or emotional, right? And there's actually one more, because we have 4 new threats. We just talked about 3. You got ready for the last one? The fourth threat is update attacks. And this is the juiciest one. So you get an update on your phone while you're sleeping, or your computer, and it's sitting there churning and churning and churning. Don't unplug me, I'm doing an update. And what happens after that? Horribly slow, isn't it? Every time you get an update, it becomes horribly slow. So they might mean well, but it turns out the reality is, and this is outlined very deeply in my book, that I call them update attacks. Because they might mean well, they might try to patch a little hole of some astronomically unlikely threat that's going to happen. But then when they patch the hole, they break 10 other things. So it's kind of like in Looney Tunes when they were in the sinking ship, where you're in the sinking boat and there's that little spout of water, right? And the boat's gaining water, and then they'll plug it up, and then 2 more spouts appear, and they'll plug those, and then 3 more spouts of water will appear. I mean, it's comical. It's quite literally Looney Tunes. But that's exactly how this industry works. These dudes will try to fix one tiny thing that didn't need fixing, and then it'll break 10 other things. So that's the first part of it. They'll make it slower. If you notice, so on your Apple mobile devices, right, your iPhones, iPads, you can go to settings, general, and turn off update attacks. And then that phone will actually work for 10 years instead of becoming too slow to use after 2 years. Oh, that $1,000 phone. Again, it's well, yeah, but you need updates because some astronomically unlikely thing could possibly happen. Or guaranteed that your phone breaks after 2 years. That's up to you. It's really, again, they mean well. But I'm in Windows 10, you as a consumer aren't allowed to protect yourself from these update attacks. And if you notice, every time Windows 10 attacks, it's just dramatically slower. I'm one of the few people in the world who can protect a Windows machine from update attacks. If you're using a Macintosh, you go to System Preferences, and somewhere in there is updates, and then you go to Secret Advanced. So even if you turn off the checkbox for updates, it laughs at you. You go to Secret Advanced, and then there's 3 more checkboxes for updates. And even then, if you find all the secret boxes and turn them off, it'll still nag you and berate you viciously for the rest of your life. Because now with a Mac, ever since Steve Jobs died, Apple fell apart. They used to be superior in every way, and now they fell apart. So every time you get an update on a Mac, damage, 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 destroy. Put it in the garbage. Side note, Apple machines built after 2018 are still expensive, but they're now paper cups. They are disposable. You are not allowed to repair or upgrade them. You put them in the trash.
What is that?
What's that?
Who is that?
What's that?
Can you hear the people talking?
No.
No? That's
No.
a me thing. Okay, never mind.
Cool.
Y'all
Okay.
continue.
So the idea with update attacks, and by the way, it rearranges everything, huh? Every time Firefox or Chrome or whatever, your phone gets an update attack. Samsung phones are the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst, because those update attacks are unstoppable, and the phone's just useless, too slow to use after like a week. And the update attacks are so thorough and so destructive that they rearrange everything. I'm terrified because they add billions of features that nobody wanted. Okay, and again, as I was saying earlier today, they're playing Jenga, okay, where they add billions and billions of features, like when you play Jenga and you make the tower taller and taller and taller, but it becomes less and less and less stable. Okay, so that's the idea with update attacks. They mean well, but they will destroy your product, and that's the whole point. Is you put it in the garbage and buy a new one. Because we've gotten to a point now where it's not like the stuff is improving. There's been very little improvement in technology since 2011, 2012, whatever. But so they got to sell something. So you hit it with an update attack, it's too slow. You think it's got a virus because the dude at the big box store said, yeah, that's old. Shame on you. You probably have a virus. Put it in the garbage. We don't know how to help you. In contrast to that, I turn off update attacks, and people's machines last 10 years, no problem. People's computers and so on. So that is the industry-wide scandal known as update attacks. There's so much more to it, but I think we should go to the questions, huh? All right, let's look at the chat.
I don't have any questions on there, so we'll just open it up to Kelly and Virginia. Shannon had to leave for work. Ladies, questions, comments, controversy?
I actually need to leave too, but you said that you can't actually stop the updates on a Samsung because I just went in and disabled, well, I already had disabled auto updates. And
That's the
so
start.
every time I come onto the computer or the phone, it has this update it's waiting to do. And I've just been skipping out because it can't update it on its own.
Beautiful, and that's the best way you can protect yourself from these update attacks. They're now getting rabid about these update attacks, and you can, if you notice, you can smell the desperation, right? You can just smell them, and you'll start to notice after today, wow, they are really adamant, right? It's because they're desperate to attack the phone. And yeah.
Well, how do you stop it on Microsoft? I just got a new laptop and this one is not an HP. My last one was an HP. This one's a Samsung. Probably
Okay.
bad news.
Samsung
But how
phone.
do I, sorry?
Go ahead.
How do I stop the updates on this thing?
So Samsung phones, you did the best you can, but really you just douse it in holy water and bury it upside down in the backyard. That's your best bet for a Samsung phone. With actually Samsung PCs are actually fine. They're no better or worse than anything else because they're not the dominant differentiated de facto standard in laptops, right? They're just a normal competitor with laptops, and that's a whole other rabbit hole. We can talk about motivation. They're not the monopoly in laptops, so therefore they're behaving themselves. In the phone world, in the TV world, they're a monopoly, so they can abuse you. Oh, Samsung TVs record everything you say in your house. And they also receive update attacks. So you must disable your Samsung or disconnect your Samsung TV from the internet immediately. Yeah, there's that. But as far as your laptop goes, side note, if you still have your old one, you should rescue the data off of it and then wipe it, and you can give it to some charity or give it to, I do that for local charities. And we don't have time to talk about this, but Mint is an operating system. So if you have an old machine that still turns on, get your stuff off of there, and then I put something called Mint, which looks like Windows, but it's guaranteed to be bulletproof forever, and it respects you. It's made by volunteers who hate Microsoft. No learning curve, invincible, works forever until you break your machine.
Okay, thank you.
As far as the Windows, though, there's a product called Stop Updates 10. You're now the 6th person in the world to know about it. And it's the only product I know of that protects you from Windows update attacks. It's called Stop Updates 10. You install it, and it's a toggle switch. And it protects you so that machine will keep going for 10 years instead of 2.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so I'm a Mac user, and I'm in the process now of stopping my automatic updates. And I've got another meeting that started 5 minutes ago, so I hope y'all keep talking. But I think I'll buy your book. And you've made me grateful for my little Mac that I thought was getting old, but I bought it in 2016. Right?
Then keep upgrading it because you're allowed to upgrade that one.
So keep upgrading this one.
Because it's more upgradable than it'll be better off than yeah.
Okay,
and
but
I'll
I
make
should
sure that everybody gets connected with Marc-Anthony at the end of this.
Okay, but I should stop the updates on my iPhone, right?
Yeah, settings, general, and updates, and then your phone will last longer.
I like it. Thank you, Cara, for introducing us to him.
Absolutely.
And books after this too. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, Marc-Anthony, that was a Cara Corner quickie. Thanks for coming and hanging out.
That was a what?
That was a Cara Corner quickie.
Cara Corner quickie. Love it. Hey, thank you so much for having me. That was great.
Absolutely. they clearly got a lot out of that. I mean, I've already been through this with you once and I got stuff out of it. So that was
But-
awesome.
And that was only